Mean Girls premiered in April of 2004, though despite its age, the film is still well regarded and a powerhouse of pop culture references. On its surface, the film seems to present a typical teen movie about high school and, well, Mean Girls. However, I think the reason Mean Girls has persisted within pop culture is because, in actuality, it explores a surprisingly complex political social structure and presents an insightful examination into the mind of its characters. The screenplay for Mean Girls was written by Tina Fey, who also wrote the book of the 2017 musical adaptation. Due to Fey's direct involvement, the musical adaptation of Mean Girls presents a story and plot which mirror that of the film. But since the medium of a musical lends itself towards focusing heavily on character feelings and motivations, I think it's worth examining both, the movie and the musical, within the context of this video. Part 1. The Plastics and Social Capital. In Mean Girls, power is represented largely by social capital. This is a fairly predictable trope of any teen movie. Popularity gives characters the most relative power within their universe. At the beginning of the movie, Regina George is the leader of the Plastics, who regularly flaunt their popularity. In the film, the Plastics saunter down the halls of North Shore High, in addition to sitting in the center of the cafeteria. And in the musical, Regina directly references this by singing the lyrics, "I've got money and looks. I am like drunk with power." And additionally, when the Plastics accept Katie Heron, the general populace of North Shore instantly accepts that Katie is popular. The way the Plastics exercise their social capital is distinctively unique because they're organized as an institution. The Plastics are able to very directly hold and demonstrate their power by determining what is popular and what isn't as a group. Part 2. Get in, loser. We're talking about authoritarian oligarchies. The most common analysis of Mean Girls that I've seen dives into Regina George as a dictator. The YouTube channel The Take made a widely popular video which analyzed Regina as a dictator, and the movie even presents her as such. Janis Ian explains that Regina is a dictator who needs to be taken down. However, while the analysis of Regina as a dictator is correct in the sense that she is an authoritarian, it ignores two critical things, or rather, two critical people, Gretchen Wieners and Karen Smith, or as the Special Collector's Edition DVD describes them as, mean and meaner. An oligarchy is government by the few, especially despotic power exercised by a small and privileged group for corrupt or selfish purposes. And to generalize, in an authoritarian oligarchy, one executive sits at the top, helped by their small elite who oversee the legislative and executive functions for the authoritarian. Gretchen and Karen are those oligarchs. Gretchen takes the most active role in executing Regina's more mundane legislative social functions, such as keeping up with gossip. In both iterations of Mean Girls, Gretchen's hair is so big because it's full of secrets. And in the musical, Gretchen sings, "Every waking hour I spend making sure Regina George can stay in power." Karen Smith is dumb, and a relatively simple representation of the dumb popular girl trope. And while a principal character really only existing to embody a trope might seem lazy, it actually substantially adds to the Plastics' legitimacy. Gretchen is smart enough to take down Regina. She even cites this in the musical by singing, "Though we both know one day there'll be blood on the floor, but which one will betray the other more?" But until Katie's arrival, Gretchen doesn't take down Regina because she's afraid of her. Meanwhile, Karen also isn't a major threat to Regina because she doesn't have the political savvy to usurp her. In addition to that, Karen is conventionally sexy and embodies to a T the attributes that the Plastics are meant to maintain. Karen is an unattainable level of beauty, and because of that, a tremendous symbol of the Plastics, and in turn, critical to the oligarchical institution that is the Plastics. It's worth mentioning as well that in the musical adaptation, Karen Smith's songs and physicality are absolutely hilarious. If I weren't so personally engaged with Janus's character in the musical, I think Karen would be my favorite because she is such a comedic delight on stage. And that's exactly why having Karen embody a trope is okay and I think necessary in Mean Girls. Within the power politics, she played her role and didn't add any complications to the story, and From the audience's point of view, Karen delivers a comedic performance of a character trope, which makes her recognizable and engaging with a wide audience. And because her character was executed very well both in the movie and the musical, the addition of a bland trope actually only added both to the entertainment and political undertones of this story. So, anyways, the critical part about Regina's authoritarian being distinctively defined as a dictatorship versus the top of an oligarchy is that Regina's regime as the head of the Plastics was exactly that. It was a regime. When the Plastics rejected Regina, Katie took the helm. When Regina fell, North Shore High didn't. Regina's exit didn't cause mass chaos, a revolution, or a disruption in the social order like the fall of a dictator would. Instead, the social cliques of North Shore continued to recognize the legitimacy of the Plastics. Regina had been slowly grooming Katie, so the populace of North Shore already accepted Katie as a social elite and as the new it girl. And even further, Regina did not take Gretchen and Karen down with her. Gretchen and Karen technically kicked out Regina because she was wearing sweatpants. They exercised their power within the oligarchy because they were fed up and no longer afraid of Regina. They knew Regina's fall would mean Katie's rise in power, which kept Gretchen and Karen's positions of power secure, and that effect rippled throughout the high school. Everyone accepted that Regina was out and now copied Katie by wearing army pants and flip-flops. The power held by Regina was not unique. North Shore High did not operate under Regina, it operated under the Plastics as a whole. Even by the end of the movie, when the Plastics are officially dismantled, that social structure still existed. The audience is introduced to the junior Plastics who almost get hit by a bus, and the cycle of an oligarchical reign at North Shore High appears to continue. Part 3. Janis Ian. I've established that the Plastics were able to retain their power through the strength of their political institution. Janis Ian instead attempted to gain power by different means through acquiring information. Janus initially uses Caddy as a way to gain information about Regina that can be used against her. From the start, Janus tells Caddy that she should spy on the Plastics and then report back on all the dumb things they say. Then, once Caddy has proper motivation to also go against Regina, Janus devises her 3-point plan. The former friendship between Janus and Regina begins to make a bit more sense when you look at the context of how they both treat Caddy. Regina overtly manipulates Caddy. In one of their first interactions, she both talks down to Caddy for being naive and then delivers, "So you agree? You think you're really pretty?" While only moments before this in the movie, Janus convinces Caddy to ditch health class, and when Caddy has qualms about this, Janus says, "Why would we get you into trouble? We're your friends, right?" When the audience meets these characters, it's now years after Regina wrecked Janus's reputation by calling her a lesbian. And now Janus and Regina seem to be on opposite ends of the social spectrum. Janus is loud and proud about her counterculture presentation and attitude, similar to how Regina is proud to be popular in every conventional sense. Though, despite the differences in how the characters are physically presented, the behavior seen by Janus is nearly identical to that of Regina. The two are very much two sides of the same coin. Due to Janus's former friendship with Regina, it's inevitable that she understands Regina's power structure. Damien follows Janus's lead with almost no question. When Janus initiates Caddy into the group, he doesn't protest. He continues to follow her lead. He continues on with comedic one-liners and the delivery of a familiar teen character trope. In many ways, Damien is to Janus what Karen is to Regina. He doesn't directly involve himself in any of the political battles, but his sheer existence and willingness to follow Janus's lead both legitimizes Janus as a leader and gives her more power. Gretchen was key to Regina's success because she was Regina's top informant. Janus lacked that amount of intel. She lacked a Gretchen to help her engage with information politics. So when Janus meets Caddy and almost instantly gets Caddy to collect information on Regina, Janus realizes she has found her Gretchen. She's found the key she needs to unlock Regina and crack open the Plastics. When Janus learns about the burn book, she wants to publish it to take down Regina. Regina does the same thing when she spreads the burn book in an attempt to take down the new Plastics. Aaron Samuels says that there's good and bad in everyone. Regina is just more upfront about it, compared to Janus saying, "At least me and Regina George know we're mean." In the musical, both the Plastics and Janis and Damien tell Caddy, "This is where you belong." Caddy is very much a means to an end, both for Janis and Regina, and they use nearly identical methods in order to manipulate her. So while Janis was rightfully hurt that Caddy ditched her art show to throw a party, the fact that Caddy and Janis were still friends at the end of the movie didn't seem entirely justified to me. We saw Regina grow as a character, and if not apologize for her past actions, she at least was publicly punished for her actions towards Caddy and everyone, and did find healthier ways of dealing with her anger. But we didn't really see that much redemption for Janis in the movie, which is another reason that I really enjoy the musical adaptation of this story. Janis gets more depth. In the song Apex Predator, she points out to Caddy early on that she is Regina's prey, and in addition to that, we see Janis being a genuine friend to Caddy. Her blocking on stage often includes her lovingly wrapping her arms around Caddy, and in Damien's song Stop, Damien and Janis show genuine concern towards Caddy, who is dumbing herself down in order to gain Aaron's affection. But make no mistake, Janis's tactics are still highly questionable. In her main ballad, which slaps, Janis sings, "So your best friend screwed you over, acted nice, was she not nice?
Well, I have some advice, 'cause it's happened to me twice."
And then continues on with her speech. This song mirrors the scene in the movie where Janis reveals taking down Regina was her plan all along. However, this song has an almost insidious tone when looking at Janis Ian as a whole. She's been incredibly manipulative towards Caddy, and then with this song acts like she's the victim who's been wronged by her best friend. I personally find Janis fascinating and do thoroughly enjoy the way she is portrayed on stage. Specifically, the musical took the opportunity it had to modernize Janis as a character and give her some more redeemable qualities, but Janis and the way that she treats Caddy serves to highlight some toxic traits that are incredibly prevalent in many female friendships. Part 4. The Apex Predators. Mean Girls is told through the lens of Cady Heron, but her involvement in the story is really only a lens in which to analyze Regina, Janis, and the high school social structure. Cady literally narrates the movie. She processes things like teenage Halloween culture out loud so the audience is on the same page with her. She does this similarly in the musical, but instead through song. Like the chorus in a Greek play, Cady's point of view is there to represent the voice and view of the audience. Cady does become the new leader of the Plastics, but really she reached that position of power in spite of herself. It was Janis's idea to take down Regina, and when Regina was booted from their lunch table by Gretchen and Karen, Cady took no part. She didn't say anything. She's far from innocent in the story, but her most troubling attributes are things she mimicked from Regina and Janis. Cady tells Janis she's the one who made her like this, and Cady even describes herself as knowing how to manipulate everyone around her, something she learned from Janis just as much as she did Regina. In the musical, Janis and Damien open the show with the lyrics, "This is a cautionary tale about corruption and betrayal." What happened to Cady could happen to anyone because she, as an individual, wasn't entirely unique. As a subject, musical theater can be very polarizing to some people, but I included it in my analysis of Mean Girls as a whole because the structures of musicals lend themselves much more towards providing absolute clarity into a character's personality and motivation. In musical theater, when a character feels incredible emotion, they'll sing about it. As a result of this in Mean Girls specifically, I find that the musical presents Janis as a much more central character who has both overwhelmingly positive and negative qualities. And it gave complete insight into the inner monologue and intentions with each member of the Plastics. I didn't get into it, but the musical also turns Aaron Samuels into much more of an actual dreamboat who likes Cady for reasons beyond the fact that she's pretty, and Cady likes Aaron for reasons beyond the fact that he's pretty, which I really appreciated. In their cautionary tale opening, Janis and Damien continue on with the lyrics, "Sometimes mean is what you are, mean is easier than nice," which kind of sums it up. Mean is easier than nice. So even though Cady, Regina, and Janis all have kind qualities, this story highlights their most negative traits as a way to caution their audience against toxicity in friendships and in what not to do in society, or at least what not to do in high school. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you liked it, boot that like button like it's Regina George wearing sweatpants on a Monday. Kenny DeVito, I love your work.